Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. You're tuned in to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show, and I'm your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. And tonight, we're going to be talking about dealing with client problems. You don't want to miss this conversation, so see you in a few minutes after these commercial breaks.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Whew. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. Happy Thursday, y'all. What a week it has been. All I'm going to say is, y'all pray for your sister. Just pray. I wish you all peace and love, and thank you for tuning in. I know you have so many things to do, and I appreciate that you show love and support for me and the channel. For those of you who don't know, I'm your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. I'm an international business and real estate professional. I'm an artist, and business is my canvas. You know, I hate the way we feel compelled to define ourselves by what we've accomplished. I prefer to define myself by what I'm striving for, and that is a powerful manifester of God. I am one of those persons. I choose love. I choose peace. If I could just be in a world where we just kind of all love each other and come together and get along, I'd be so, so happy. So thank you all. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to talk today about dealing with client problems. Y'all know most of what I talk about here is what I get from you all in coaching sessions or on emails or DMs or whatever. But this is one that I see that challenges many of us because we're just not yet, many of us are not yet sophisticated the way we need to be when it comes to dealing with clients in our businesses. And so a lot of us, you spend most of your coaching time with me trying to figure out how to do all of that, right? So we're going to talk about that today. Okay. So proper handling of people. I'm going to get started because it's a lot of information in this segment. Proper handling of people, social and emotional intelligence are key elements when it comes to learning to service and handle our clients. All right. And let me say, some of you all will say, well, I don't have a business. These are principles and techniques and things that you should use, whether it's your employer, your employee, if it's just colleagues that you hang out with at the bar or at the, because, some of y'all still hanging out at the bar, at school, if you play in a recreational league, if you play basketball at the gym, whatever. This is just all about interacting and dealing with people that you may or may not be in a service relationship with. All right. So I encourage you to sit back. I'm sure you're going to find something that you could use. Okay. First question. What is a client? I'll tell you. A client is a person that uses the professional advice or services of another one. So whether you're a PR agent, a tax professional, a business consultant, an attorney, a physician, you might be an executive and you have certain stakeholders in a company that you serve, anyone who supplies services to others. And I would even say also sells products. Okay. Even your customers that you sell products to really technically are your client, Now, I stepped into the world of business, not really understanding what a client was, not knowing how to deal with them, but also not being prepared to deal with corporate drama that included racism and sexism. So when I had good and cooperative clients, I would have bad coworkers. And then it seemed that when I had a good team of coworkers, we had challenging clients. I used to always say under my breath while I was at work, Lord, you must be setting me up to teach me how to deal with this stuff one day. And while I was only halfway serious, that was really just my way of talking to God while I was in a challenging space. But little did I know that I'd really be teaching and training this one day. All right. Okay, so I see y'all coming in the room. We're going to take a quick commercial break, a shameless plug, and I'll be right back and get right into it. We're back, and you're tuned into the Mind of an Entrepreneur show, and we're talking about dealing with client challenges tonight. So we've talked about the proper handling of people, okay? If you missed that whole series, then I suggest you go back and listen to it right here on the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel. If you're getting anything out of this, you got time. It's going to be a real heavy show today. You got time to give your love offering. Go to Cash App, Sajdah Enterprises, and give a little love offering. Because I'm going to give you some information that's going to be helpful that you probably won't learn in a classroom. All right. My goal here today is to help raise our awareness so that our mind reflects to us how we can be a better service to our clients. All right. I want everybody to just take a deep breath. I'm feeling a lot of tension and stuff like that. Take a deep breath and relax, because the clients ain't going to take advantage of you. It's all in how you deal with them. Let's talk about how to deal with difficult clients, challenging clients. I'm at a point in my career now where most of my clients are a joy to work with, and I feel so blessed to be able to support them as they start, grow, and develop their businesses, solve problems, analyze their businesses, products, or services, and even navigate through a crisis. But no situation is perfect, and no client is perfect. So get that out of your head. No situation is perfect, and no client is perfect. Okay, this is a good conversation for you to listen to if you're looking to hire a professional to help you with your project, or if you need to hire someone, whether it's a lawyer, a PR agent, an accountant. You should also be listening to this. Okay, here are some of the most common client challenges and how you can work your way through those challenges. Okay, the biggest challenge that I see, type this in the chat, is not having the same expectations. Not having the same expectations. Big. You expect one thing, they expect another. And the biggest problem is most of the time you in your head. You got what you define as what the expectations are. They got what they define as what the expectations are. And it becomes a problem. Dealing with your clients is just like working through any other relationship. There are times when your expectations just don't line up. Sometimes it's just good old-fashioned, honest misalignment. Other times it's intentional. Hopefully not on your part. Now, what are some of the things you can do when you realize that you and your client are on two different pages? They're just misaligned. Okay. Unreasonable client demands that are difficult to meet. Sometimes your client have expectations that are different from yours. I cannot stress this enough. Sometimes they're just different. They may see you as an additional employee and not a service provider with a specific scope of work. I've had clients like this who disregard the scope of work that they hired me for and just start asking me to help out with everything. This is a slippery slope, okay? Because if someone is thinking like this, they will often think that they don't need to pay you. They'll offer you a job or something, or a premature partnership. Most times, not because they don't like you or because they're trying to take advantage of you, but most times because they really do like you. And you bring so much value to the table, you may find yourself pushing back because you know that you are way out of scope. Again, it's a slippery slope, but I'll tell you how to handle it. Okay, here's another reason for differing expectations or a misalignment. It's insufficient communication. Assumptions. You make an assumption, they make an assumption, and sometimes you don't properly plan. You're so excited. The client may be love bombing you and just constantly calling you and telling you how great they are and they can't wait. And you don't stop and lay out the scope and properly plan and properly communicate. And so you jump right in and now you're misaligned because in your haste, you didn't clarify your expectations, nor did you clarify theirs. There was no communication. This is the biggest mistake that many professionals and clients make. Not being clear on what the scope of work is can be detrimental to the relationship. The client will end up feeling as if you took advantage of them, and you will likely end up feeling frustrated and maybe even disrespected. If you hire a professional, listen up, think of it like going shopping. When you put those items in your cart and navigate to the checkout, you wait in line and you get to the checkout counter, you know exactly what you're paying for. But what if you got to the checkout and the cashier starts charging you for stuff that you didn't put in your cart? You're going to be like, excuse me, that's not mine. But what if they say, yes, it is, you ordered this? There's going to be, you're going to have a problem with them, right? You got to think of services this way. What are you putting in your cart? What are you saying you want? Okay. Now, how do you deal with these problems, with these expectations that can cause scope creep or just cause all kind of friction? Number one, be really clear up front about the services you plan to deliver. Take the time. Don't be so thirsty to jump right into a contract with somebody. What I do is I usually do a consultation first so I can be clear on what I'm dealing with, what I'm pricing, so that when I set my pricing, I can be fair both to myself and to the client. Okay. You want to set the project boundaries early. Make sure that terms such as the timeline, the deliverables, and the costs are all discussed both at the onset of the project and throughout the project. Make sure that you do a thorough analysis and be very clear and accurate in your communication. Follow up on all conversations with a summary and a document as much as possible. You want to set up ongoing meetings so that you share progress and deliverables, and you can ask your client, how are things going? How do you feel? And allow them to ask you questions. Okay? You want to listen intently and make sure that the client is very clear, and make sure you're clear by listening. There's communication techniques that you can deploy and say things like, okay, what I think I'm hearing is, okay? Sometimes misunderstandings happen simply because your client may be inexperienced. And when you know you have an inexperienced client, that's when your communication has to be very clear, very concise, and very transparent. Okay? Here's the second reason why we have problems with our clients is it's the project life cycle. See, every project has a life cycle. It's designed to last so long, a certain amount of time. There's a finite amount of time that the project may last. Okay. Or if you're an attorney, you may have a certain steps that you got to use to get the person to trial or whatever. Sometimes a project may stall for reasons that are beyond your control. Finances may cause a project to have a hiccup, equipment orders, shipping delays, staffing may be an issue. Like I said, no project is perfect. Anything could come up that may impact your timeline and deliverables, including weather or even issues on your team. You want to make sure you keep the lines of communication open. Do what you can during the slowdown, but always check in with your client. Should you stall your work until things catch up? Do they want you to keep working? Don't be afraid to have that conversation. Perhaps they pay you for the work done thus far, and then you suspend the contract until things change. Remember, every project has a life cycle. Be realistic, and if there are important deadlines and the stalled project, for example, is jeopardizing the life of the project, then be sure to communicate that to your client as well. Say, hey, we have an important deadline coming up. What do you want to do? There are downstream dependencies on what we're doing today. And you make sure that you share those downstream dependencies and how the delay may be impacting what we have to do next. Okay? But most projects are unsuccessful when communication becomes an issue. And you're going to find that as a theme tonight. Communication, communication, communication. All right? Y'all all right? Let me know. Everybody getting this? Everybody got it? Okay. Not having the same expectations. Okay. I don't want to go so fast and leave y'all. So let me know if you got any questions. I don't see any, so I'll keep going. Okay. The third thing that causes client problems, you may have a client where there's just nonstop client communication. Anybody who works with clients know people like this. They just constantly communicate. I'll tell you a funny story. When I first met my business partner with the micro hospital, he said that I used to get on his nerves because I'm the kind of, at that time I was his client before we moved into the partnership phase, and I always used to tell him, I'm going to err on the side of over communicating. I'm going to let you know what's going on, why it's going on, what needs to be going on. I'm going to make sure I communicate with you. And he said that he used to get on his nerves because he kind of was used to just, paying somebody and saying, go do the work, and then kind of looking to see how it turned out. But then later, years later, he told me, he said, man, he said, that was the best thing that you demonstrated to me, was the need to communicate. And now he's at the point where he can't stand when he's working with somebody when they don't communicate. But it's key. It just helps you to level set. And so, but there's a place where it can go overboard. And sometimes when you have people who are doing nonstop client communication, this is a tough one. I've had clients who would literally call and email nonstop and would get offended if I was working with another client or I was simply unable to respond to them on demand. Even just calling and punching you into an on-demand conference call or creating urgent energy around everything. If I got to make a quick call, I had a client that is working on something, and he or she may be on a conversation and say, you know what, let me see if I can grab Wendy real quick. When I answer the phone, I appreciate if you ask, hey, do you got a couple minutes? I know I'm calling you really, off schedule, but do you have a couple minutes to jump on this call? As opposed to people who just go, boom, you answer the phone and you're on a three-way and you don't even know them like that. Of course, you want to help your client out, but after a while, you realize that their sense of urgency is really just a manipulative way to get you to respond on demand. There's those kind of clients too, right? Where they create these little micro emergencies or urgent situations just so you can get on the phone. Hey, I need you real quick, 5 minutes. Hey, look, this is happening right now in real time. And it's like, look, I can't be on call for you. Now, if you want me to be on call for you, that's going to cost you some money. Now, we can have that conversation, but a lot of people don't want that. They just want you when they want you, right? Again, this is not like they dislike you or intend to disrespect you, but it's often because they really do like you and they just want to connect with you all the time. Some clients are just like that once you retain them. They think that you're supposed to be at their beck and call. And the goal here is to teach people how to treat you early on in the contractual relationship so that you maintain healthy boundaries and they get the best service that you and your team can offer. Now, how do you do this? Well, first off, don't set a pattern of being available on demand when you know it's not one that you can keep. Set clear work hours. And maybe not, and when you have a client like this, don't respond to emails after hours. Even if you work during off hours, don't let your client get accustomed to hearing from you during those hours. Most clients will honor traditional work hours, so this is not an issue for everybody. Some of us will review, like me, I review emails sometimes late at night or early in the morning. Well, if I know I have a client that I need to set and keep clear boundaries on, then I'll write the email responses and save them in my drafts. And then make myself a note on the calendar that during the beginning of the next business hours, then send them out. I'll do that with text. I had a client one time that would be texting like at midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning, and I would just write a response to his text, but I would wait till about 9 o'clock in the morning to respond. When you have clients that don't seem to respect boundaries, these are the kind of techniques that you have to do. But you also have to communicate. Let's say they call you during dinner hours all the time. Then you got to be sure to communicate that you're having dinner or enjoying family time. Sometimes when we're getting close to deadlines, or, if you're planning an event and the event date is creeping up on y'all, you work late hours and you spend a lot of time with the clients, and longer hours may be necessary. But I'm talking about the extreme cases. You'll know if it's extreme or not. Okay. You're going to want to make sure you create those healthy boundaries. Okay. Here's another one. Some clients, okay. Somebody said TMI. Sis Sandra said use TMI, too much information. Here's another one. Some clients like to have constant revisions and do-overs. They like to pontificate over the details and over the same thing over and over and over and over again. Those are really tough. Usually when you see that kind of communication loop happening, that means that there's something that somebody wants to say that they're not saying, or that something that somebody doesn't understand that they're not saying they don't understand. So when people are going back and forth and in that loop, there's something happening there that is causing that person to constantly say the same thing over and over again. You got some clients who repeatedly ask for several rounds of reviews and revisions with no end in sight. They ask for constant corrections, multiple edits, and they engage you in long conversations about the same thing over and over, constantly changing things and never making up their minds. That sound familiar? This can be tough for people like us because I'm a doer. I'm all about getting us to the finish line. And it's hard for me to sit in conversations where we're doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's one thing when this happens and it's related to the scope of the work that you've been contracted for. But what if this happens when you agree to do some extra work? Be careful. This is one where I've gotten caught up. See, I'm one of these people that has been blessed to be able to do a lot of things. And if I can't do it, I can usually figure out how to do it in a relatively short period of time. I remember having a client that needed some tweaks done on her website. And the website was an important milestone for the project. And her web developer was out of town. So I volunteered to jump in and help tweak the website while the web developer was gone for a few days. What did I do that for? Big mistake. I made the tweaks according to the last meeting we had because I was taking notes, right? I'm managing the project, so I'm taking notes, and I think somebody on my team might have been taking notes. So we know what the tweaks and what the corrections are because we're going to go back in and make sure they happen. It wouldn't happen. It was just about 7 revisions or 7 tweaks, I would say. And so I went in and made them like one late night. I said, let me just do this real quick. When I tell you, this person kept saying, oh, no, I think I want to do it this way. I think I like it that way. And I found myself caught up in this loop that I got so frustrated and was like, listen, I'm not your web developer. I had to say that to her, but it really wasn't her fault because I shouldn't have jumped in. We should have just waited till the web developer got back. But I wanted to just move the project along and I didn't want to see her miss a deadline. So I jumped in and did it. But then it's like she then thought I was the web developer because she kept saying, maybe we change this color and maybe we put this over here and that over here. And she had this whole thing outlined. I had to say, hey, we're going to wait till Monday. Okay. When you mess up like that, it causes friction. It was a lot of friction between me and the client after that. She felt well within her right to treat me like the web developer because I started doing what the web developer was doing. And I felt well within my right to push back because I felt a little disrespected. I didn't feel like she looked at it like I was doing her a favor. Okay. Now that I'm a little more evolved, I wouldn't even volunteer, especially if I knew that I was dealing with a client who was often indecisive or one who likes to discuss things over and over again. If I got a client that I know is clear on the scope and is professional and understands it, then I'll pop in there and maybe make some adjustments or help them out. But you got to put a revision process in place. When you're turning in a final product, some service providers will clearly delineate the number of revisions that they'll do before they begin to charge for their time. They'll say you get 3 corrections, and then after that, we go into an hourly rate of, such and such per hour, $150 per hour or whatever. Make sure there again that communication is in place. This is why when you work for a consulting firm, so much of your time is spent in meetings. It is really hard, but there's a lot of meeting, a lot of communicating, and a lot of talking, because setting proper expectations, communicating problems and solutions is key to the success of the project. All right. Here's another problem that we can often have. Sometimes we take on too much work in a short period of time. Okay, now this may be self-explanatory. Don't tell your client that you can plan a big party, for example, with 1,000 guests. Let's say you're a party planner in 5 days if you know you can't. Or don't accept such a low price to do it that it prevents you from hiring the additional staff that you need in order to pull it off. You got to be realistic. It feels good to be considered a miracle worker, but you can really do it. But can you really do it, and at what cost? Don't commit to so much that your customer service falls off. Always remember, and type this in the chat, that people will pay for an experience. Working with you should be an experience. And if you take on too much work without the appropriate fees, it's tough to provide the experience that supports your brand. Be mindful that taking up too many projects at a time can be a problem. Be okay with saying no to new projects or staggering them out a little bit. Okay, pay attention to coinciding deadlines and multiple projects also. Okay, here's another thing that can become a challenge if we don't work on building and maintaining client relationships. Okay, just like I mentioned, the client experience is everything. It's just as important as the customer service. Be mindful of your relationship and be clear that the client experience must be maintained. How does that client feel when they walk away from a session with you? How does that client feel by bringing you onto a project? Did you kind of help them breathe a little bit? Do they feel like they got a strong person that's on their team that's helping them? It's important to build an emotional connection, but that emotional connection must be an intelligent one. You want to always respect your clients. And as a service provider, you are often in a privileged position where a client may give you access to sensitive information. They may give you access to sensitive situations where you may just pick up on or notice things. Keep your client's confidence. Don't go around gossiping about your client, and don't run your mouth about your client. Let me tell you something. I'm so committed to my client's confidence that I don't post about them. I don't take pictures or videotape in their establishment. I make sure not to discuss their business with others in the industry. It took me a long time to be able to give real life examples. For example, even on this podcast. Why? Because a lot of my examples are from client experiences. And trust me, you won't get those big clients if they know you run your mouth or you're going to be talking about their business. People want to know that you maintain their confidence. Okay. Do you think the person that's buying and selling real estate, for example, for Beyonce and Jay-Z or President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama would get repeat business if they sat around and talked about the deals they were involved in? Let me tell you something. You never know who knows who. So be the service provider that your clients can trust and rely on. Don't judge a book by its cover, because that very unassuming person that you think don't know nobody may know everybody. And I'm going to tell you this. Don't assume because a person is Black or a certain race, that they may know that they may like certain things. I have a podcast and I'm on here. I think I'm a pretty fly sister, but I may not know a reality star or uh, a street person. I may be more familiar with that board director or the preservationist or the professor. So don't make assumptions. Be very, 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 very careful, because you don't know what kind of background a person comes from. You don't know who they are. And you definitely don't know who knows who. You will be surprised. In a big old city, how many people know each other? All right. Here's another thing that can cause problems with our clients is when we don't properly price our services. This is where a lot of us fall off the wagon. We are either afraid to charge. Some of y'all really are afraid to charge for your services. And some of us don't charge enough. Some of us overcharge, or we just don't negotiate. First of all, you have to charge. You can't work for free. And if someone doesn't want to pay you or gets offended by you charging them, then unfortunately, they just may not be the client for you. Y'all know I make it very clear. I give away the game for free, but I charge for services. I believe a good client wants to pay you because they appreciate what you bring to the table. And if they are experienced enough, they understand that you are a unique talent that's going to help open doors for them and get them to that next level. But if you meet somebody and they don't want to pay you, then they just may not be the client for you. Here's the next thing. Don't undercut your prices. Take a look at what the market rate is in the industry. Find the price range that's appropriate and price your services accordingly. I had somebody come to me that wants me to incorporate some of their services as an extension of my services. And it's a great idea, but I'm like, I can't do it until I know what your prices are, because I know my clients. I know if I got the top high-end corporate clients that can pay that corporate rate and can afford for me to come and bring in subcontractors and things like that. And I know if I have a smaller client where their project may be something that I take on myself. Okay. Don't overcharge. Make sure that you can delineate what you're charging for. Don't treat people like whales and charge excessive amounts. You see them and they dress nice and maybe they look nice, or they live in a nice home, or they got a nice car. Now you want to jack up your prices. Don't try to get over on people. Just like you know when someone is taking advantage of you, they can sense the same thing from you. People can smell BS a mile away. If you can, don't think you're the only one that can smell it. Then remember that a negotiation is when both sides win. Don't be afraid to negotiate your price. Take your time and review exactly what it will take to provide the service and price it accordingly. And you get all kinds of sales techniques. Some people will lowball you first. They'll say, well, they'll say, I need a party planned, okay, for 1,000 people by the end of the month. And they'll say, and you think you could do it for $500? They may just be throwing that out. And you like, no, that's going to be more like $5,000. And you got to be real clear. Okay. Here's the next thing. Some clients are just unresponsive and uninvolved. Sometimes they disappear. This is where your regular client communications and meetings come into play. I had a client, we would set up weekly meetings and he wouldn't even come to those. I'd be sitting on the Zoom waiting for him to jump in. This was during the pandemic. Sometimes he'd send a team member, but he wouldn't even come to those. And I had to let him know, look, the project has to flow. And the ongoing concern of the project is important to me. And you not being on these calls is causing all these delays because your staff can't make certain decisions. Okay. And so I had to help him to see that he had to get involved. He had to come into the meetings. He kind of just wanted to add water and stir and come to like every fourth meeting and then be able to say, okay, is it done yet? But I had to tell him it just don't work like that. Okay. There's a lot of other issues that we can have problems with our clients about, but here's the last one that I want to talk about, and it's trust issues. First of all, don't take on clients that you can't trust. If you think that interactions with a client could put you in danger, walk away. This is why you do scope meetings up front. If you sense or observe unsavory or even illegal behavior, either don't deal with them, or if you find out in the middle of the project, close the project out and sever ties. Some people who are doing things that are unsavory like to attach themselves to somebody like you or I, somebody who has a clean reputation just so that they can look good or maybe even look innocent. They may bring you on board and make you the face of the project. Be observant and mindful of what is going on behind the scenes. Sometimes trust issues are developed not because there's a threat or something illegal going on, but there may be moral misconduct happening in the office that you just can't deal with it. How are the employees being treated? The client may keep you separated from this activity. At least they may attempt to do so, but you may have an employee to tell you, or you may observe something weird yourself. Nothing is worth risking your freedom or your reputation. Keep your nose clean. And as soon as you find out that something funky is going on, get up out of there. Okay? And don't let people cast dirt and a shadow on your name. You know, if somebody's talking to me and I see them kind of talking to me like they think something weird is going on, I'm quick to check that, because I work way too hard and kept my nose clean for so long. When so many of my colleagues did a lot of crazy stuff, I'm checking that. I'm going to fight it all the way to the end. So you may have a client that may accuse you of something. You may have a client, something happening in the client office. You make sure you keep yourself clean and be on the lookout for that kind of thing. Not to the point of paranoia, but if you see it, you got to know when to fold them. Okay. I hope that helps. Let me see what y'all saying here in the chat. Okay, you wrote that out. Let's see. Sandra D said, this is good. Addendum to the addendum to the addendum. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sister Monica's here. She said, yes, boundaries are key. Sister Sandra, we talked about that. Yeah, you got to have the right expectations. We got to be lined up with it. So I see y'all in the chat. Happy Thursday, Mom. I see Timestamp Army tapping in. Nubia Latifa is tapping in. She's wishing everybody well this evening. Of course, Sandra D, she said, happy Thursday, peace, love, blessings. I love those emojis, sis. Sister Betty, great evening, everyone. She's here. She's in the house. Let's see. Okay, I see the rest of y'all are being shy tonight. But I hope this helps you kind of put some framework around how to deal with your clients, but also put framework around if you're planning on hiring a professional to do services for you. Sometimes, you know, we get hired on projects, you know, you get this a lot. Like I see it, I get this a lot from my clients that are event planners where people just be unprofessional. And so you got to know how to teach people how to treat you and set those boundaries early on. DJ Uncle Phil said, peace and blessings. Welcome, welcome. Okay, family. Any questions on what we just talked about on dealing with client problems? Any scenario that you all want to talk about? Because if not, then that's all I got on that subject. And we're going to be back in the morning for Sajdah Morning Coffee Talks. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. and Saturday, 6 a.m. And you know what? I got a little subject, but I'm not always sure what we're going to talk about. I just kind of left it open this week, and I just said, let's just see what happens. And so that's what we're going to do tomorrow morning. So chime in, tune in, tell a friend, on your way to work, on your way to school, while you're getting dressed, whatever. And let's do that. Let's set the tone for the weekend with our Sajdah Morning Coffee Talk tomorrow morning, Friday at 6 a.m. Grab you some coffee, grab you some chai, some tea, or whatever, and let's come on in. Let's talk. Let's see what what we can drum up to discuss. We always come up with some good topics that help us out with our mental strategies. And let me tell you, these are the things that we have to learn how to do as business people, because oftentimes we kind of just suffer in silence. We got this rugged individualism where we don't ask questions, we don't talk to anybody. We're having problems. We don't really have anybody that we can use as a sounding board for things. Everybody's kind of into their own little world. Sometimes I would say, as fellow entrepreneurs, take a moment. I know I do this all the time, and just put down what you're doing. Put the phone down, put the laptop down, put the notebook down, and talk to one of your fellow entrepreneurs and just be a sounding board. See what they need. See if there's any way you can support them, how you can help. Just stop for a minute. We have to start doing that for one another. All right. Okay. So with that, family, peace and blessings. I love you all. I wish each and every one of you, I'm sending y'all some good energy, shooting good energy out there to each and every one of you all. And I pray that you are blessed with more peace, more goodness than you've ever experienced or imagined. Okay. We'll see you in the morning, 6 a.m. Inshallah. Sajdah Morning Coffee Talks. Peace and blessings.